It's time we take another trinket from the player's handbook and turn it into an awesome item. Come roll with me. Number 24. And number 24 is a multicolored stone disc. I knew from the moment I read this one what it was going to be. We're calling this one Simon Says. And yes, I do mean that game back from our childhood. If you can find one of them, I would suggest giving your player a actual Simon Says game or something equivalent. Only let them play with it when they would be as a character. But once they beat some designated high score, unlock for them the mysteries of this item. In-game, this item appears as a stone, rock, and as you touch the different parts, it acts like the Simon Says game. If you're not familiar with it, I'm sure you can find a YouTube video on it. Once the player beats the designated high score, they unlock the device as some sort of key. And this key, once per day, allows them to enter Mordenkainen's magnificent mansion. You can find the spell online or in one of the books. I don't remember which one. But remember, make the score that they have to beat significantly difficult because this is a 7th level spell. We haven't gotten through all 100 yet, so let's take another player's handbook trinket and turn it into an awesome item. Rolling like we meant it, we get number 67. And number 67 is a gold monocle frame without the lens. Now I could come up with a much more serious name for this, but let's call it the I Spy. Now what the I Spy is used for is detecting, classifying, and identifying magic. Initially, as with any new piece of equipment, your character does not know how to use it properly. So when they first start wearing it, they might see faint traces of magic around things. As they become more used to it, they'll realize they can classify what class of magic it is. They might also be able to pick up trace amounts from where a spell was cast previously. This can be great for dropping clues for quests. You know, like they may be able to identify early that the BBEG is a necromancer. And eventually, it becomes a tool for your wizard or other spellcaster to learn new spells, because they're not always going to find the convenient scroll in a magic shop. And this should take quite a lot of in-game time, but eventually they should be able to figure out how to cast any spell that they're seeing through it. Per request, we're taking another trinket out of the player's handbook and turning it into an awesome item. And roll it like you stole it for number 30. And number 30 is a blank book whose pages refuse to hold ink, chalk, graphite, or any other substance or marking. Let's call this one the Book of Secrets. This book is dormant, or asleep if you will, and the only way to wake it up is to write in it with blood. Once you have done so, it can use that same blood to write you a response. Now this book is knowledgeable, whether it's a arcane tome from a wizard's college or a bardic college, or just somebody's personal journal, it has seen and learned a lot. The downside is it's sentient, and right now, it doesn't like you. So while the magic that holds it together forces it to tell the truth and answer your questions, it may not answer them the way that you would want. For instance, if you ask it, what's the big bad evil guy, it may start describing the definition of big bad evil and guy. Or it may start describing a big bad evil guy out of a book series. Hey, you're the one that's failed to specify which big bad evil guy. Now it's entirely up to the group's dungeon master to decide how much knowledge this has and what that knowledge is. Personally, I'd hide clues for the quest. It's time once again to take another trinket out of the player's handbook and turn it into an awesome item. And today's number is... And number 93 is an empty wine bottle bearing a pretty label that says the Wizards of Winery Red Dragon Crush 331422 TAC W. Well, I shouldn't have to say this, but this is the Wizards of Wine's Winery wine bottle. This bottle was used for coming up with new recipes for wine. To use it, you simply fill it with a liquid and some ingredients of your choice. Leave it overnight, and in the morning you will find that the contents have fermented. Please note, it is now full of wine, but I'm not saying it's good wine. The receptive will also notice that the label has changed based on the ingredients you put in it. For instance, if you put in tropical fruit, it may give the name Tropical Fusion instead of Red Dragon Crush. The serial number will also have increased by 1, but now there's no letter. Once you have drank the entire contents of the bottle, the letter will appear, and it's a rating system, A to Z, with Z being the worst, of the contents. Before you can brew something new, you do have to finish the entire bottle and get a rating. If you dump it out beforehand, you have to make the exact same thing you did before. And we're back at it again with the trinkets and awesome things. Let's go. Alright, let's go ahead and roll for it, and... well, that's not going to work. Alright, it's number 27. And number 27 is a shard of obsidian that always feels warm to the touch. Let's call this one Shard of the Dragon Heart. Since this is always warm to the touch, it makes a really convenient little hand warmer to put in your pocket. Alright, yeah, it needs to be a little spicier than that. It also makes a great magical fire starter. You put it to any kind of tinder, and it will start up. But only when you choose it to, so it's not going to start your pocket on fire. And yeah, no, that's not it. I'm not going to leave you guys with that. So somewhere along your journeys, you're going to come across an obsidian dragon statue. And you guessed it, this is a missing piece from it, from right about the heart region. Go figure where it got its name. As soon as you replace the piece, you will suddenly feel a burning sensation in your arm. When you look down in that particular arm, you will find you now have a really cool dragon tattoo. It can be removed magically, so if that's what you want, you can do it. So long as you have that dragon tattoo, once per long rest, you can use a dragonborn breath weapon. And the breath weapon is of the type that you choose. Can't seem to get enough of this, so let's turn another player's handbook trinket into an awesome item. Let's roll. We get number 74. Number 74 is a fan that, when unfolded, shows a sleeping cat. Okay, I think for obvious reasons, let's call this one Sleepy Kitty. For roleplay purposes, when you start using this fan to fan yourself, the cat slowly starts stretching and waking up. However, you will never fully see the transformation. Because if you can see the cat waking up, it is also casting sleep on you. With a slight twist. Instead of a targeted 20-foot area, it's instead a 20-foot cone in front of the fan. So if you happen to be in that area, fanning yourself with it, you're going to fall asleep. If you have it turned around the other way, other people are going to fall asleep. And you can't use it again until the cat falls asleep again. And I hear what you're asking, when is that? That's a great question. Since cats seem to be ornery and never do what you want them to, here's the deal. You have a chance to recharge it at every rest. During a short rest, roll a d20 and an 18 or higher, the cat will be asleep. For a long rest, it's a 12 or higher. So it may mean you get it every rest. Or it may mean the damn cat will never fall asleep. Once more, we journey into the player's handbook to turn another trinket into an awesome item. And today's lucky winner is number 86. And number 86 is an empty silver snuff box bearing an inscription on the surface that says Dreams. This has to be the most horrifying thing I've come up with yet. Tag all your favorite D&D TikTokers, because we're going to need an extermination squad for this one. Based on the number of people sleeping around this thing, roll a dice to determine how many dreams it consumes. None of those people have any dreams, but when you wake and open the box the next morning, you will find that it has created small cubes based on those dreams. They may be bright and glowing or dark and sinister, depending on whether they're a dream or a nightmare. If you consume one of these, either straight, mixed in food, or mixed in water, you will get a buff or a debuff, depending on what kind of dream you just consumed. I'll leave it up to your DM. Once it has collected 6 of these things, it will grow in size. And God forbid if you ever let it collect 100 of these things, it is the size of a treasure chest, and it is now alive. And not just alive, but it is now a dream creature. And you guessed it, it's a dream mimic. And the only difference between it and a regular mimic is the fact that all its damage is now psychic, and it can only be hurt by magic and magic weapons. Player's Handbook, Trinket, awesome. Let's go! Rolling, and 15. And number 15 is a bright green feather. Let's call this one Eagle's Grace. Now, like with all of my trinkets, your players are going to have no idea what to do with this feather. But through trial and experimentation, they may figure out how to use it. This item starts with 10 charges, and 1 charge can be used to give your characters feather fall. Alternatively, you can use 2 charges to fly the distance of your total move speed. To regain charges at the end of a long rest, roll a d6, and it regains that many charges. And if it ever runs out of charges, it is destroyed. I know, useful utility item, but how much fun is this going to be to insert in your game? Oh, doubting DM. Stick around for the RP portion. Because you see, this thing is named Eagle's Grace because you've been graced with the blessing of an eagle, not because you've been graced with the grace of an eagle. That made sense, right? So to use this item, you actually have to grasp it in your hand and flap with it like you're trying to fly. And to all of you DMs out there that make the players act out what their characters are doing, I love you, and this is for you. Player Handbook. Trinkets can be awesome. You know you want it, gotta love it. Number 96. And number 96 is a black pirate flag adorned with the dragon skulls and crossbones. Let's call this one Curse of the Emerald Drake. Other than its physical description, there's really nothing remarkable about this flag. Oh yeah, except that it's cursed. The player possessing this item takes disadvantage on all charisma-based checks, except for intimidation, which they get advantage for. They also cannot get rid of this item, it always finds its way back. Any kind of identification spell used on this thing only returns horrors and screams, and a longing for salt water. If the flag is ever thrown into the open ocean, a cursed ship appears. The name that appears on the ship is some word scratched out, now replaced with the word cursed and Drake. The ship itself has kind of a greenish black cast to it, and has torn sails, all that jazz. You know what a haunted ship looks like. And when the party ventures on board, they will find it packed with undead. Ghosts, ghouls, skeletons, flavored as you will, just make them pirates. And when the players finally defeat the captain and claim his sword, the curse is lifted. All the undead return to their rest, and the ship is returned to its full glory. And the name once again reads, the Emerald Drake. Once again, we delve into the depths of the player's handbook to take a trinket and turn it into an awesome item. Let's go! And today's lucky number is... Wait, what? Oh hey, it's number 16. And number 16 is an old divination card bearing your likeness. For a very somber reason that I'll explain at the end, we'll call this one the Twin of Souls. You have never not had this card. It's always been with you. Even when you think you've lost it, it finds its way back to you. Turns out, it's soulbound. Once per day, you can use it to summon an exact likeness of you. And for 3 hours, this likeness of you can do things in your place, including fight and skill checks and stand in a boring board meeting for you. And at the end of the 3 hours, it recalls to the card. It's not as good as you at any of these skill checks or anything, but it is capable of independent thought and reasoning. If your double ever dies, the card goes blank, and you can never use it again. However, the card also still stays soulbound to you, so you cannot get rid of it. Now for the sombering RP part. If the character who possesses this ever dies, their likeness shows up on the card. If the card was blank, this likeness shows up crying. If the original likeness was still there, then the new likeness shows up embracing them as their long-lost twin. It's like we've done a lot of these, but we're just getting started, so let's take another trinket out of the player's handbook and turn it into an awesome item. And looking for a good one, we get number 1. And number 1 is a mummified goblin hand. How about we call this one Gisby's Grip? This mummified appendage was once owned by a goblin named Gisby. And Gisby is no common goblin. He actually is a goblin spellcaster inspired by the works of Mordecaidan. And as such, he was inspired to become the best goblin spellcaster he could. After his death, his hand was mummified and became a sort of good luck token. Whoever possesses this item may twice a day use it to take advantage on any roll. But here's the fun part. If someone should ever tie it to the end of a stick and make a sort of wand or staff out of it, it becomes, essentially, the Wand of Wonder, capable of all the glorious magic the wand is. However, after using it to cast a spell, roll a DC 15 Arcana check. If you fail that check, you're forced to roll on the magic surge table, and the effects of whatever surge you got happen in addition to the effects of the spell you cast, unless you fail it with a score less than 7, in which case the spell itself fizzles, but you still get the nasty side effect. If you liked what you saw in this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, or check out one of the other videos or playlists listed here. Also, be sure to check out the description for links to all of my social media sites. My next video will be posted in 5 days. Thanks for watching.